Welcome to Driven to Lead. I'm your host, Wayne Brandon. In this series, we explore the real world stories of key executives to find the leadership lessons that help move us all forward. If you like these conversations, we'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe and like button. It'll help us out a lot. But now we got another great program for you today, so let's make it happen. Well, we got another great show for you today. We have with us Stephen Pridmore, CEO of Crenlo Engineered Cabs out of Bentonville, Arkansas. Stephen has a 3-year history with engineered cabs. He's going to talk about that a little bit, but he's got more than 15 years in manufacturing, working with all different kinds of metals, magnesium, zinc, aluminum, and others. Most importantly, Stephen has demonstrated he's a great leader. He's passionate about driving empowered teams, and he's created not only strong P&L results, but good business outcomes overall. Stephen, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Wayne. Great to be here. Great to join you.
Yeah, we have on this program a lot. I always say it. We have people in industries often that, we don't really think about too much because they're incorporated in some other aspect of products or services that we connect with. But you're in the engineered cabs business. And so tell us what an engineered cab is and where it goes and why is it important?
Yeah. I didn't think a lot about it either until I started 3 years ago here, and now that's all I think about. It's all I see when I'm
Right.
driving down the road, and it's amazing how your perspective changes, based on what you do. But we design most of and build the operator cabs primarily for the off-highway industry. So the biggest markets we serve are construction, off-highway truck, so specialty truck. A lot of the garbage trucks that you see, we build the cabs for those. We're the largest cab manufacturer in North America, and so our company it really is the result of the two largest companies that were purchased by our ownership group, Angeles Equities Partners, and
Mhm.
they put them together back probably about 6 years ago, and we became the single largest in North America. And we build the cabs that sits on top of what we call the skateboard, the chassis. And we have varying levels of build out for those cabs, from kind
Mhm.
of just the frames themselves to all the way through, where we install the HVAC and all the electrical, and
Mhm.
kind of give the fully finished cab to the OEM, and then they install it on the chassis
Right.
and build out the truck. So if you're driving down the road today and you see a tractor or a truck or something working in a construction site, we probably build the cab for that in one of our three facilities.
Now, you mentioned construction equipment and you mentioned garbage trucks, for example. Are
Yeah.
you also active in agricultural or active in mining and those kinds of things as well?
We are, yeah. We serve pretty much every industry. Our two largest are the construction and off-highway truck, but
Hmm.
agriculture, forestry, mining,
Hmm.
oil and gas, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We
Excellent.
build cabs for all those industries, and we just kind of follow, the large OEMs in North America. Where they go, we go, and service them throughout the industries they're in.
So I expect that because of the various uses of the vehicles and the importance of kind of protecting the occupant, you've got some issues about occupant comfort, occupant safety, depending on what they're doing, that are probably more robust requirements than what you'd have in a normal passenger vehicle.
We do. We actually test and certify for what's called ROPS and FOPS, which is rollover protection, and then
Hmm.
falling object protection.
Yeah.
We test for all our cabs that require that level of safety and critical protection, and then certify those cabs for the OEMs. So we do. I would say the majority of our cabs kind of fall under one of those two or both of those certification requirements.
And because you're integrating with a vehicle chassis or skateboard, as you called it, and the manufacturers are installing these, you must have a high degree of integration engineering together with the OEMs or actually buying these cabs from you, right?
We do. In a lot of cases, about 60% of what we build, we're design responsible for. The
Okay.
other, call it 40% or so, we provide a high level, I would say, of design support, and our engineering team is pretty integrated within, our OEM throughout their process. We do a lot of engineering changes and things like that throughout the life cycle of a
Mhm.
product, and so again, we're heavily integrated, not only in providing the changes, but really providing the guidance for, the most economical and,
Mhm.
safety critical elements of those changes that they request. Yeah.
And I just trying to get a picture in my mind of how finished the cabs are. I mean, are they painted? Are they branded? Do you put the brand logos on the steering wheels and on the front of the vehicle, that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, yeah. So they're fully painted. We don't put any, customer branding that kind of comes after, but
Okay.
we e-coat paint. I mean, they're fully finished out. Some of them, not all of them are. Some of the OEMs do a level of finish out on the cabs, and we
Right.
have, again, varying stages of finish that we do. But I would say for the majority of our cabs, we're providing, for the most part, a finished cab to
Okay.
the customer. It's one of the probably differentiators for us in this space is we're fully vertically integrated. So there's really
Okay.
nothing we can't do from a finish out, design and then finish out perspective, all of the varying levels of process that go into, the raw material, which is
Right.
primarily steel, all the way through, we do in-house those processes. So all the fabrication and obviously welding and then e-coat and paint. Yeah.
Fantastic business. I'm just thinking of some of the paints, for example. Certain brands have certain colors that you always expect to see. I mean, if you're looking at a John Deere tractor, you know what color that's going to be, right?
That's right. That's right.
So
Yep.
interesting.
Yep.
Well, I think it's a great business and it's an important one. And what are you seeing as the kind of the major kind of opportunities for growth going forward? I mean, where's this
Yeah.
business headed?
Yeah. So, we've been like a lot of businesses, I'd say the last 12 to 18 months, the market's been pretty soft, driven by interest rates and, just some of the economic stuff happening, not only nationally but globally.
Hmm.
And so, the market that we serve, or the industry that we serve, I would say has been in a little bit of a hunker down, kind of wait out the storm. We're seeing I would say the front end of recovery, and so we're in the process of preparing for growth throughout the end of this year. Really, we feel like late year, early next year, we'll be back closer to full recovery, if not all the way there. But so there's certainly just the market recovery growth that we'll see.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
then we've landed our specifically for us, we've landed the last 3 years the largest year over year new business
Yeah.
acquisition in the history of the company. And so we're really poised for, I would say, over the next 3 to 5 years, about 20% growth year over year
Yeah.
from where we are today. So we're in a kind of a unique phase where we've kind of, again, dialed really down to where the demand was aggressively.
Hmm.
And then now we're in the process of really trying to kind of turn it back up as recovery happens, but timing it, as you know, is going to be the key for
It's
how
always
we do
difficult.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, it is. So you're gaining share in key segments because you're just getting
we
better.
are. Yeah,
And I'm sure customer satisfaction and a lot of things have to do with that. Plus the breadth of your capabilities. Sounds like
yeah,
you've got a really great plan. So if we look forward a little bit, then there's some also going to be some hurdles out there. I know you mentioned interest rates have been high, affordability in general and stuff. A lot of the costs of tariffs and other things are getting passed through to the
yeah.
customers. So what do you see as the big hurdles coming down the road? I mean, we've been in a long economic expansion, right? We may have to have some pullback, but I expect that some of the construction and mining and agricultural things that you work on don't have the same kind of, big dips that maybe consumer markets have. So
Yeah,
what do you
yeah,
see as the challenges? Because it's great
yeah.
that you're growing. I'm really happy, but it's never all that rosy, right? There's got to be some clouds on the horizon.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's an overall optimistic sentiment about, where we're gonna land, kind of long or midterm here. I think that the challenge both for us, our customers, and really the overall industry is just the timing of how that's going to happen. There's still, a fair amount of uncertainty with just again, kind of the economic conditions and
Mm,
wars and all the things that
sure.
are happening and how that impacts, consumer
Yeah.
behavior and so I think, we've already started to see, a little bit of, start stop, where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, we're going again, and
Right.
then there was a pullback, and then we're kind of going again, and there's a pullback. So I think it's the challenge that we feel today, and I think our customers feel, is just finding the right rhythm for,
Well said. Yeah.
moving with the market.
Hmm.
I think one of the things that happened probably early to mid 24 is, I think the OEMs got caught sitting on a lot of inventory. Demand was really high. Everybody was trying to race to, capture as much of the market as they could. Uh, Inventories were ballooning. And I think there was
Hmm.
a lot of lessons learned during that period. And so I think now there's a little bit of a hesitancy of we don't want to, do that again. And so, how do we time this in a way that's responsible from a cash outlay standpoint? And so, for us, managing a pretty complex supply chain downstream
Hmm.
with long lead times and global and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
it's a challenge just being able to juggle all the variables in a way that again is within the rhythm of
Hmm.
kind of consumer demand and customer demand.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's really important. We've been talking with a lot of executives who are saying a similar thing about getting the cadence right, getting the rhythm right, and
Yeah,
it's we're moving into a period of just uncertainty that doesn't allow us to just lean on 1 year or 5 year business plans, right? We need to
right.
almost have a continuous flowing planning and production cycle process. So I think it's smart what you're doing to try to, always work on finding the right rhythm and working the supply chain, especially the longer they are, the more international they are, the more risk that's inherent there. Another question on the automation side of the business, given that you're such a highly vertically integrated business with lots of different segments of production, what are you doing in terms of automating and creating efficiencies on that side of the business?
Yeah, it's a great question. We are on the front end of, I would say, discovery of how do we build out a level of automation beyond what kind of the company and
Hmm.
to some degree maybe what our industry is used to. We feel like there's opportunity there because of the complexity, because of the volume scenarios. It's not quite as straightforward. I came out of the automotive industry where high volume, redundancy, automation in that environment's a little more straightforward.
Hmm.
Ours there's a little more complexity there. One to justify, the capital for it,
Right.
with volumes for a particular program, and really the flexibility that you need to have because of the customization side of what we do. But we feel like there's segments within our business, a lot of the sub-weldments, where we could really fully automate across the board
Hmm.
and drive a level of consistency and really cost savings long term that we've not seen before. And so we're actually on the front end of that process. Our head of operations is really kind of commissioned a study to figure out what's the right strategy for us going
Hmm.
forward. We're excited about it.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's an AI element here as
Sure.
well that we're exploring and how that could impact our business. But ultimately, we do see an opportunity with automation for the future. Yeah,
Great. And I think it's interesting the way you position it, I think is exactly right. You have so many parts of your business that are custom and they're likely not going to be good candidates for automation,
right.
but they're the ones that are more universal across product to product type processes. Maybe the more downstream kind of things would be
Yeah,
more specific, and the upstream things can be more generalized and more automated.
yes,
So yeah, interesting. Yeah, every business has its own level of complexities, right?
it does. Yeah.
And of
Yes.
course, there's also, I mean, issues to just try and, squeeze, the shrinkage and the losses along the way and things that, just, sharpening chain of custody handoffs and sharpening, inventory management controls and sharpening, the customer process and returns and, and quality and those kinds of things. So I'm sure all of these things are weighing on your business like they're weighing on every other one.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're definitely definitely trying to think about all that. I came into the business, I think, after I saw what we did, and one of my first instincts was, man, we got to do more automation. We do a fair amount today. I would say we do as much or more than probably anybody else in the industry,
Okay.
mostly around automated welders
Mhm.
and things. But my first reaction was, man, we got to automate more. And then as you really get into the business and understand the complexity, it's like, okay, well, there's reasons we haven't.
Right.
I'm not just that much smarter than everybody else has been doing this. And we've been, I would say, the last year or so really trying to understand the dynamics. What are some of the reasons we haven't, and then how do we think about the business from a segmentation standpoint, maybe a little differently, where we can view certain segments as good candidates for automation, and then build out a strategy around that. So
Right.
we
Now,
feel
you,
good
I'm
about
gonna
where
ask
we
one,
are.
I'm going
Yeah,
to ask one more question about the business.
sure.
You mentioned earlier that you're now PE owned company,
Yeah,
and that often brings some really positive systems and processes and expertise of key executives who've done a lot of other things, and that's all
yeah.
great. It also brings some cultural kind of advancement as well for the team. Are you in the middle of that? Are you pretty stabilized after the investment? Do you feel like you're in a good spot right now?
I do. Yeah. I was fortunate, I guess, to come in after kind of the initial forming, where the two companies came
Right.
together, a lot of the integration and, the challenges up front. They put it together right in the midst of COVID. So then that provided
Yeah.
another challenge. So I kind of came on the back end of that, really initially to help prepare for a sale in
Mhm.
24 that didn't happen. And so then we've been focused since 24 and really delivering on the value unlock that we positioned in the sale process in 24.
Mhm.
And have been, kind of doing what we said could be done with the company to a potential investor or owner at the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're in a good, stable environment. We've got a great ownership group. They understand the business. They're operators by nature. They're not just
Mhm.
finance folks that
Yeah,
are,
that's tremendous.
they
Yes.
really understand the operational side of the business. One of the things that attracted me to them is, part of their missional outreach is that they want to create real value, not just financially engineer their companies.
Mhm.
And they have as really a stated priority that, when they exit an asset, they want it to be better than when they bought it.
Right.
And that says a lot to me. I've had exposure now with a number of firms, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of guys out there that they're trying to maximize their investment, and really what happens after they leave is kind of, if the place blows up, that's not their deal.
Right.
These guys that own us, they really genuinely want to leave businesses better than they got them, and they're committed to that and manage accordingly. It's not just about, the end justifies the means
Right.
with them, and so we've been really blessed and fortunate to have a good group that we work with.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. There's
Yeah,
so many. I mean, a lot of times these investment firms get a bad rap because there's some who behave inappropriately. But you
sure.
hit all of the top level kind of needs. They're operators by
Yeah,
nature. They've got experience, broad set of experience. They're bringing not only financial but functional and operational excellence to the company.
yes,
It's kind of proven out. The two companies were integrated fairly quickly. The
yeah,
culture's stabilized. They really want to leave the business better than they found it,
yes,
creating true value. I mean, my philosophy in life is you create value and value comes back to you, right? So I
yeah,
think it's absolutely the right philosophy, and I'm so glad that you have that kind of partnership with your
yes,
investors and owners because it's not that easy being the CEO of a big company like yours. And You know, and I think I mean, to the credit of the investors, but also the credit of you and your operating team, you're growing. You're the biggest in the country now, and you're
Yeah.
growing at a time when, things are a little bit soft. So, what a tremendous story.
Yeah.
So now we're going to pick your brain to tell us a story. We like to listen to leadership stories on this program, and it can be a good one, it could be a bad one, it could be anything you'd like. Let's talk about it. Let's find some leadership lessons there that we can learn about. I know you prepared this in advance. I don't know what it is, but I'm
Yeah.
anxious to hear.
I did. I'm going to go a little off script and go down the path of a different story that kind of hit me right as we were getting on the call, and I don't know why, but maybe it's meant for somebody that's out there.
Yeah.
But several years ago, before I came to this company, I was in the chief operating officer role, actually from of a larger manufacturing company, private equity owned. And when I took over the operating role, we had a couple of plants that had been really hemorrhaging money for months, if not a year or so. And my task was, to stop the bleeding as quickly as possible.
Sure.
And because we had, multiple facilities, and it was coming off really the COVID time, and we just hadn't rebounded well as a company, particularly in the automotive sector, where
Mhm.
volumes went completely away and then they came back at all-time highs, and we were just trying to react to MPW levels, didn't really
Mhm.
do that, and so we had made the decision with the ownership group that we were going to close one of our facilities in Michigan. It was one location with four different manufacturing facilities. And so we had kind of put together the strategy very quickly, and began to execute against the strategy to really close those facilities down. And combined, that group rolled up as a little over 100 million in revenue. So it wasn't a small kind of mom and pop shop operation. And we got into the process. We notified, we did all the town hall meetings, notified the team, notified our customers, GM and Ford and Chrysler and all, and started into the process of closing those facilities down. And as I was there and getting to spend time with the team over the course of a few weeks, it just occurred to me that we were making the wrong decision.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what to do with it other than acknowledge it initially, to some of the guys that were on my team, that were helping really execute this strategy of closure and
Right.
consolidation. And the kind of the deeper we got, again, over probably 3 or 4 weeks, I just developed a conviction that we needed to try to reverse course. And
Mhm.
thankfully, I went to our ownership group and I said, "Look, I think we've started down a road that we need to try to reverse." I don't know how you do that because we'd already done all the Warren Acts, and I mean this thing was the
Right.
train had left the station. But thankfully, the short version of the story is, that we were able to maintain that facility. We actually consolidated four facilities into really two, but we're able to maintain that group there. And within a course of about, I would say, 3 months, they were losing probably $1.5 million a month, and we were able to break even, and then begin to and that plant became one of the most profitable plants in the company, ultimately, because that team really galvanized behind a second chance. And we were able to kind of bring back some leaders that had left previously, that were critical to the strength of that organization. It had been a really good organization over a lot of years, and it just been mismanaged the last few. And
Right.
um, and so we kind of got to go through this gamut of the emotions of closing a plant, and all the anger, and
Mhm.
from people that had been there for 25 years, to literally within just a few weeks of trying to galvanize that team back communicate to customers. Okay, well, we've had a second. We want to give this a second chance, and had a change of heart, and to kind of put that thing back together again after we had began to disassemble it
Right.
was one of the most unique experiences of my career, just a ton of lessons learned in that process of you can sometimes look at a P&L and look at data from a distance, but really the decisions have to be made with the people in the place where you're doing the in this case manufacturing or whatever. That's where you really understand. You don't understand the business primarily with a spreadsheet or that tells a story, but you really have to get there and understand the dynamics of what's happening. And again, fortunately, we were able to salvage really a good facility and a good organization that exists even today.
Yeah, fantastic story. It has so many different elements. I don't know, I almost don't know where to start, but I'll start with you, I guess. And
Yeah.
that is, you know, it takes great, you know, confidence and personal resolve to be able to look objectively at a decision you've made and that I expect you sold throughout the organization as well, because it's a huge decision.
Yeah.
And you had your own kind of commitment to this on the line, and yet you got there and you looked at the facts and you talked to the people and you reassessed and you made the right decision, even though you had a lot of personal momentum and personal involvement in it. So good on you. Did that come easy, or did you realize you were going to have to unwind some things that might be a little embarrassing for you?
Yeah, it didn't come easy. There was this kind of kind of come to Jesus moment for me of, am I going to do the right thing here, or am I going to do the thing that's probably in my best interest, which is just keep moving forward and
Mhm.
um, you know get this thing to the finish line and kind of get this negative anchor off the company. It didn't feel like the upside on a personal level for me was all that, because there was a lot to lose, and for me personally not a lot to gain from keeping it open, but I really believed it was the right thing to do for the business, for the people there in this facility that I had to look at every day when I was there,
Sure.
and answer the question, why are we doing this? And so when I made the decision, it was and I talked to my wife about it. I said, we're going to do this, and I don't know what it's going to mean for me personally, especially if it's not successful, and
Yeah, right.
but I think it's the right thing to do, and I'm fortunate to have a wife that if we're doing what we believe is the right thing, she'll support me,
Yeah,
all the way down to the bottom if that's where we go. But she was really supportive, and I had a great team that believed in it as well. It wasn't just me; I was
right.
the point person, but had a great team that believed it as well, and it really galvanized our team. It changed the trajectory, I would say, of the group that was leading it, because now we felt like we were united behind a noble
Mhm.
cause,
Yeah.
and something that had some significance to it. And that team today, we still have kind of that once in a lifetime experience of going through that together. Several of those
Right.
guys are working with me even here in this company
I
now.
was just going to say, the next question I was going to ask,
Yeah.
Stephen, I think the thing you leaned into was the right decision at the end of the day, regardless of personal cost. Great that you had a great wife supporting you, but I expect the other people who were supporting you as well were doing it because of your character. I mean, I don't want to embarrass you on the program, but when you operate with a high level of business ethics and integrity and moral authority that makes sense, people know they can count on you. And I expect that's why they appealed so strongly to the closure as well, because they knew you'd be open-minded and fair, and that, a decision that had been made, you weren't going to, avoid making an undue decision if you had to, because you'll do the right thing. So good on you.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that people who see that kind of leadership won't want to continue to be around it. And so I'm not surprised at all. You still have some of those people in the
Yeah.
organization where you are right now. What about, I mean, on the one hand, it would have been really easy to just tell everybody that, this is a post-COVID world. There's lots of moving parts. Nobody knows what's happening. There's this huge demand in auto that developed in 2021. There were part shortages everywhere. So there
Yeah.
was lots of good rationale to blame the close down on, right?
Yeah.
But yet you, in the face of all of that, you still made the right play. And why was it the right play? Can you tell us like what was the reason? I mean, I like the fact that you said that you looked at the impact on the people, and that's great. I think that's a big part of it. But the impact on the people together with the business outcomes have to be kind of what we do because it's not good for the rest of the organization if you
Yeah.
protect people, but in the process you bring down the viability and put other people at risk, right? So
Yeah.
what was the reason
Yeah.
that it was a good play?
I was able to look back. I knew the former owner really well. I got to spend
Hmm.
some time with him in that
Yeah.
process. Um, and it had been, his dad had started the company years ago, and then he had taken it from his dad, and it had been just a high performing uh, uh, company for so many years, decades, and consistent. Really earned the right for some high level OEM, automotive OEM business, and and then ultimately, the company I was in at the time and some of the leadership changes that had been
Mhm.
made, we really mismanaged a company that wasn't the fault of the people that were there. It wasn't
Yeah.
an indictment on, they didn't just forget how to do what they had done for decades. It was just
Right.
we had mismanaged them. And
Hmm.
then when we got into the process and I realized how much talent was still there
Hmm.
coming to work every day and doing everything they could to try to keep this thing together. And when I realized that there were people that had left that, would be willing to come back if we were willing to, kind of give it another
Hmm.
chance and
Hmm.
maybe reinvest a little bit, to
Sure.
do it. I just felt like, there was more upside long term if
Hmm.
we were willing to go through the process. We're going to have to trust, some of the people that were there.
Yeah.
We're also going to have to kind of depend on our customers working with us as well, to kind of pivot back into this thing, which
Yeah.
fortunately, not
Sure.
all of them, but most of them did. So a lot of that was really good, and it galvanized us with those customers as well.
Hmm.
And so it just again, when I kind of looked objectively at the business, what was wrong with it, what I had to just acknowledge was mostly what was wrong was at my level. It was the mismanagement. It was, kind of the corporate oversight or mismanagement of what they had done. And if we would kind of empower them and a little bit get out of their way,
Hmm.
they knew how to do,
Sure.
what we did in a profitable way. And
Yeah.
sure enough, they proved that out, as we were able
Great.
to kind of put it back together. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing stories like this.
yeah,
It's really about true collaboration and mutual human respect and shared responsibility that you're
yeah,
talking about. And I think those are some of the fundamentals we build any sort of leadership platform on. So great story. And I'm glad that it worked out.
yeah.
With the OEM brands and the others you were serving, I assume you were a tier one.
In that case, we were, yeah,
In that
yeah,
case, you were. So if you think about it, a brand would always rather have a supplier partner who's on their front foot and being aggressive and moving forward instead of backing up, right?
yeah,
Especially in a time when they see demand soaring. So
yes,
I'm sure that actually served you better than the close down would have
yeah.
at the end of the day as well. So there are lots of ancillary benefits. So if you had to do it over, what would you have done differently? Would you have, before you made the decision to close, would you have gone and had more of this close assessment rather than
Yeah.
making the decision from the ivory tower and then going out to execute and having to find this out?
I,
What's the
I, I,
lesson?
I would have. Yeah, I would have invested more time up front with some of the leaders there. I think, we were responding to um, a crisis, and
Hmm.
indeed it was a crisis. I mean, part
Sure.
of we had shut down one of General Motors' key operations for about a week when I took over this.
Yeah.
And actually their Corvette plant. So
Hmm.
and we had shut them down, and there was just all these, just it felt like every day there was a new, there was more bad news upon bad news, and we
Right.
we had debits building up, and I'm a decisive person by nature. I
Hmm.
think as a
Yeah.
leader you have to be decisive. I think it's hard to follow people that are indecisive. But I also think that, part of being a decisive person is ensuring that you collaborate with the right people to help
Yeah.
inform and make the decision. Probably the thing that kept us from doing that was a little bit of fear that if we talk to
Hmm.
them and, word kind of sprinkles out, what we're
Yeah.
considering, we'd
Yeah.
start to lose some momentum there. But with decisions like that are that big, you've got to take some chances, I think, and pull people in that are the key, folks that are really operating and managing the operation. So
Hmm.
yeah, if I could do it all over again, we would have paused, brought
Hmm.
some of those folks in, and then made a decision together, and would have probably gotten to the same place, but not without the start stop and
Yeah. A
and
little
all the
bit less
pieces.
disruption.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, good.
yeah,
That's wonderful. Great story, and I think a lot of lessons for all of us. I like when you said specifically you're a decisive person, and it's not fair to others to have them follow someone who's not decisive. But at the same time, to be able to take the appropriate consideration, especially for
yeah.
major decisions that impact a lot of lives,
That's right.
doing what you're suggesting could have been done
Yeah,
differently, I think is really insightful. Well, thank you for that. Let's transition to the last part of our program. I always ask a couple of questions of my guests, Stephen, as we wrap up. So now that you have all this experience and you're years down the road, decades down the road even,
yeah,
let's think back to your younger self,
yeah,
20, 25, whenever you have in mind. And what one piece of advice would you give your younger self if you could?
yeah. Um, I think in all the things I've been able to be a part of and done, the thing that I will remember, and be most kind of proud of at the end is the relationships I built with people, what I learned from people,
Hmm.
what I was able to invest in people, the careers that and career trajectories that I was able to impact in a positive way. Through mentoring and just relationship, and then my career that was impacted in such
Hmm.
a profound way by the people along the way that invested in me, and some of those folks were hourly employees that I spent time either in training or just with, that just really imparted, in some cases, sage wisdom,
Hmm.
into my life, or in some cases even it was business. They didn't, their position wasn't really an executive level or a business level position, but man, some of the practical, common sense advice and lessons that I learned from them, even to this day, impact as an executive how I think about leadership and operation. I think, my advice to myself would be, just soak everything you can from those relationships at every facet of, the organizations that you lead, all the way from the operator all the way to the executive. And I think there's, one of the things you want as a leader is to be well-rounded, and
Hmm.
and you know
Yeah.
and to understand, kind of all the facets of your company and all the facets of your industry, and I had good exposure to people in all of those various levels in manufacturing. And when I think back on it, there's times where I think, man, I wish I'd spent more time, taking this guy out to lunch a little more,
Right.
or just in his office, kind of getting to pick his brain on certain things. I was
Hmm.
always focused on trajectory and where I was trying to go with my career.
Sure.
Sometimes I
Sure.
probably moved a little fast,
Yeah.
beyond relationships and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think when we were younger, we were more anxious, perhaps, to move
Yeah,
ahead. We learned all along the way. Those of us who were able to put together a career that made sense for sure, but we probably glossed over far too many good lessons that were there as well, just because we were bullying our way through the world and focused
yeah,
on ourselves and our career too much. So I think that's a really good one. All right, let's fast forward the other direction now. You and I are having a coffee in Bentonville. Maybe in the Ozarks there. It's beautiful. We're sitting on a
yeah,
mountaintop,
yeah,
looking across the world, and we're talking about 20 years from now. We're talking about our lives, our careers. What are you going to tell me you're most proud of?
yeah. Most proud of my family and the fact that we were able to navigate this journey together. And there's a lot of things we do in business. I was in sales for a lot of years, commercial, so traveled all over the
Hmm.
globe and
Yeah,
a lot of lonely flights and
sure.
lonely hotel rooms. But I never felt disconnected from my family. They were always a part of we communicate. I've got three grown kids now, and my wife, we've been married over 30 years, and so every part of the journey with them, we've celebrated together. I've brought them in. I've always wanted them to feel as connected to the successes as I was, because to me they were as much a part of it as I was, and so every promotion I've ever gotten, we would go out as a family and celebrate,
Hmm.
and we do that even with my kids today as they're kind of
Sure,
moving up in their
sure.
careers. We'll
Right,
celebrate even the little promotions. But for
right.
me, that's the thing when it's all said and done, to have gone through. The journey of my career, ups and downs, highs and lows, with
Mhm.
my family, and to come out the other side, I think with an appreciation together of what we were able to do and where we were able to go, as a result of it.
And I expect the quality of the lives that your kids will have as a result of you having that kind of connection to your family as they do whatever they do in the
Yeah,
years ahead. I think that's really important.
yeah,
So many careers, especially demanding careers like you've had and ones that put you on the road for a significant period of time, can break families apart.
yeah,
And so the fact that you're able to hold it together is a great testimony to how you lead your life. At the end of the day, whether it's our family or even the other people we work with, Stephen, the when it's all said and done, it's only the quality of the relationships we have and the lives we've been able to touch that really matters.
yes,
I've said this so many times on this program. I mean, I love to create value in the world. I believe that value comes back to us and our families. I think it's an honorable thing and it supports, our families, our spirituality, our entire, kind of perception of self and our role in the world, all of it. But at the end of the day, it's the relationships we have in the lives that we touch that are going to matter the
yes,
most, and it starts with
yes,
family. So,
yeah,
I wish you great continued success in that area. You got a little bit of road ahead of you
yeah,
before you have that conversation with someone like me.
yes,
Listen, it's been a great program today. I'm sure the audience will love the candor, the honesty, the sincerity of your story, and how they need to reflect, as we all do, on how we manage difficult times and how we make big decisions. So thanks for that. If
yeah.
um, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, reach out to you or your company, how would they do that?
Sure. You can email me. It's just spridmore@crenlo.com. And our website is engineeredcabs.com as well, or crenlo.com will take you there as well. And all our contact information is there. Yep.
Perfect. Well, I certainly hope to stay in touch with you as well, Stephen.
Same.
Really appreciate you being on the program.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Wayne.
All right. God bless.
God bless.
Well, that's it for Driven to Lead today. We really appreciate you being with us. Share this with a friend or a business colleague if you would. And if I could remind you again, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're very grateful for that. So until next time, always remember the high road leads to a better place.